Hey, Vasili, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to hear about what you guys have going on. I feel like I'm seeing the cool edge bits everywhere.
Yeah, we're trying to definitely kind of the new, I would say not new, but kind of where everything's headed with media and we're trying to get ourselves out there, the more eyes and ears on us, on our content, on our drill bits, and seeing kind of explaining about who we are, what we do, how they work. I think is good, drawing people in, getting a good audience, and then kind of the second round of content will probably be like, well, here's these drill bits, going in the hole.
Okay.
Well, I'm planning a trip to Pennsylvania where we're gonna bring a videographer with us to kind of record that, and because I mean, again, revenue is king. Generating revenue is top priority, but also what's kind of like gold for us is having a run report, right? Having actual numbers behind, here's this drill bit, here's a competitor drill bit, and here's the run in the same application, and
Mm-hmm.
here's us doing better,
Yeah.
and then to bow tie that or stamp that, the testimony from the person doing the drilling, or putting it together, a drilling engineer, drilling superintendent, something like that. That's kind of a great package for us that to put out, and I think, I don't know, I can't speak too much because I've been in this space for just about 2 years, but I feel, and what I've seen, it's kind of there's a kind of a, let's say, a crowd of folks that's, has, I have some gray hairs too, but it has maybe a little bit more than I do, that's kind of on their way out, whether they're retiring or
Mm-hmm.
going into consulting or, whatever. And now the new kind of wave that's kind of coming in and really making themselves forefront and known is kind of like more maybe like my age, like
Mm-hmm.
early 40s, mid 40s, something like that. So trying to be a part of that crowd and kind of usher in a new, maybe a new way of operating and in the oil and gas space, which I feel is truly very conservative, very
Mm-hmm.
resistant, and slow to change. So hopefully we are creating something that is, ushering something new. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. And really it's about like, I mean, you have the product and like you said, obviously, sales and revenue are what you're striving for as, to keep your business growing and building and to be sustainable. But to build that brand recognition and to develop those relationships in the industry and putting yourself out there in, on the media or, in some kind of media front to showcase what you're doing and what you've developed and what you have to offer because it's a good old boy industry. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely built on generations of oil and gas veterans, and a lot of that has been taught and passed down over time as far as like this is the way things have always been done.
Right.
But I think we're in a really cutting edge space with the industry where there's a lot of operators that are wanting to integrate more technology, ways that we can be safer, more efficient, and obviously being able to produce more, which is a big part of what the drill bit is.
Yeah, we're all about cost savings, efficiency. We're not against the good old boy system. I think that's a magical way of interacting and having business relationships, of being getting really close to people and being, a part of. Whether you're going to lunches or dinners or vacation, or like having that personable experience, I think is great. But also, you know, getting some statistics and numbers behind what our product, our downhole tool is doing, as well as, if there's any family aspects. I mean, we started as a family business. It was something that my father invented, that my uncle and I and my dad came together and started Cool Edge Bits, founded the business. So, but we're not a family business anymore because we're, building a team and hiring, great individuals to help us develop the business, and help us with sales and rentals and, marketing. We have Midnight Marketing, which is a great company that's helping us with a lot of this content that you see being put out.
Mm-hmm.
They do a great job, as well as, even having like corporate attorneys part of the team. Any contract that comes in or comes out, they're the last people to see it, or create it,
Uh-huh.
or so. Yeah, it's just, I I come from a sports. I grew up as an athlete. I played tennis all my life, starting at age 5. Originally, I was born in Moscow. We immigrated here in the early 90s, and that's kind of all I knew. I was like just like straight ahead, no, with blinders on, all train, 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 train. Go play a tournament on the weekend or during the week, whether it's state, national, international, and then come back and do it again. That was
Mm-hmm.
my life. So that's all I knew. I played some professional tennis, got out of that, had a little some setbacks, some injuries, and kind of fell into coaching. I didn't realize I never thought of myself as a coach, but I realized I love helping other people more than I
Mm-hmm.
like helping myself. So I really fell in love with it, and that's all I was doing for years and years. Started, got married, started having kids, and was very, pretty good at what I did as far as coaching, and made some good friends and kind of like family, my students along the way. And then they kind of just a lot of them were encouraging me to like get out of the W-2 prison, as I call it, which is just being secure, working at a big corporate
Right.
place and, country club. Last place I was at, I won't name it, but we all know it. And I finally just took the plunge. I got out of that life and started my own business, Tennis Academy, which led to another business and more and more and more. And then my dad was like, drill bits, so we started Cool Edge Bits in October of 2023. So, you know, we're able to pretty quickly scale that business as well. So
Yeah, well, I can kind of see like the evolution of it, like your family's from Moscow.
from Russia, my mom's side is, and then my dad. I keep hitting this thing, and my dad is all like Siberia, Eastern
Oh,
Siberia,
okay.
closer to like China, and so. But actually, yeah, I grew up in Siberia. I was only born in Moscow because my dad was like away for a business thing, and
Gotcha.
so my mom was like with her family. But no, I lived in Novosibirsk, which is the third largest city in Russia, the largest in Siberia. It's like Moscow, St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk, and then we immigrated here in the early 90s. I was like 9.
Was that a transition? I know you were really young, but did you have a lot of the
Honestly,
the culture shock from coming over?
again, I was just so locked in on tennis. Honestly, for probably like, yeah, of course it was a little bit, but for my sister, mom, and dad, probably more than me. But I just continued to do what I was doing over there. Over
Okay.
there, I would go to school, walk home, throw my tennis bag over my back and either ski to the tennis courts or ride my bike
Wow.
and then just play till the sun, the lights went out. And here, pretty much the same thing, other than you can't ski or bike in Houston too much because it's a giant city. So there, I would have like some driver or somebody that my parents would hire to take me to the tennis club. Then they would pick me up.
Okay.
And so as far as that, not much changed. Of course, people, language, different country, different. That of course was a change. But I kind of was just so into training and playing that that was just my mission in life
Yeah.
for a long time.
Well, and that gave you a lot of structure, early on
Hmm.
to have that track. But now your dad, I don't want to like I know he's done a couple of different things or he's worked for different companies, but
Yeah, so we came on a Fulbright grant. He's a Fulbright scholar. He's like a leading rocket scientist in the world. I mean,
okay.
there's like 10 of them, and he's one of them. And but he came to work. At first, we were in Rockville, Maryland for a year, University of Maryland. Then he was transferred to U of H. And my parents swear to me to this day that we had like three options. We could have gone from there to Calgary, Canada, where half of our family lived, immigrated a year before us, and then we could have gone to Michigan State, Lansing, or Houston. And they say they chose Houston because of my tennis, because they know
Oh,
I could
okay.
play year round. So,
Okay.
but he quickly saw that, like, sadly in this country, you can't raise a proper family on a teacher salary.
Mm.
So he kind of started looking outside of being a professor at U of H and started his own business and started to do business and ended up doing some work with the Navy and receiving millions of dollars in grants and developing combustion engines and different nozzles and burners and injectors and was an early guy at a big aerospace engineering company. On to he's worked at NASA, Firefly. Actually, Firefly Aerospace. It's kind of cool. They just landed on the moon, and my dad was part of that project. And um, it, I think first time in like 50 years that we landed on the
Oh,
moon. There's like
wow.
a little moon rover walking around, and
Very
what
cool.
they delivered there was a plaque of all the folks that contributed to this project, and it has our last names on the moon.
That's
So I thought that
awesome.
was
Oh
pretty
my
cool.
gosh. That is
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, so basically that was his whole life. Again, you're probably not hearing drilling or drill bits or anything. He's rocket engine design. But he had some friends that were in the oil and gas space that were drilling wells across the world, and they knew that he's got like the perfect brain and degrees and experiences, and his degrees are like physics, mathematics, and by the way, doctorate in all of them, and mechanical engineering, which focuses on mass heat transfer, thermodynamics, fluid dynamics, and they kind of just like knew that this is the perfect guy, even more than we did. He didn't really care about it too much. I'm doing tennis, so I'm not nowhere near it, and but that thanks to some of his buddies, they knew that, and so they kind of tasked him with trying to look at this drill bit, figure out how maybe he can make it better, and he did. So I don't know if you're familiar with how a PDC bit looks. You've got the same one there in your hand.
Okay.
So most of everybody, if you look straight through these middle three nozzles,
Mm-hmm.
you can see hollow space, right? So
Okay.
that's called
Yeah.
the plenum, basically the inside of the bit body. Everybody has nozzles that look like that. So if you look through any, we can name them, right? We know the top five companies in the space. Everyone has nozzles that are straight up and down. You can see in the plenum. If you look at ours, right, on the side, this is called the junk slot area.
Okay.
These are called blades here, and these are cutters. So PDCs, polycrystalline diamond compact diamond cutters, right, which are brazed on there as you manufacture the bit. So with us, all of our IP focuses on, if you look through the center axis of at least one of our nozzles, you cannot see into the plenum, right?
Okay.
When you look through that little guy there, you cannot see. Why? Well, because the way the hole is machined, if you kept going, you would come out here somewhere, right? So what we have is we have curved channels, right, that bring you back into the plenum, right,
Mm.
inside of there, right?
Okay.
So that curved channel brings you back into the plenum, and that's where all the drilling fluids, mud flow goes, right, from the top through here and then out. But my dad looked at this and said, looked at, let's say, one of the bigger companies' bits, and said, first of all, there's not an, because he spent his whole life in heat rejection, cooling for rocket engine design. And so he said, first of all, there's not enough nozzles. And second of all, why are they pointing down to the cutting, to the floor here, the bottom of the hole? The cutting is actually happening here, right? The shearing is happening right here, right? Like a little ice cream scoop. As it turns,
Okay.
right, all the rocks, shales, clays,
Yeah.
particles this is where the cutting's happening. So he said, we need to have more nozzles, and all of our IP is focused on directional fluid flow to the cutting edge. So you see these and these, they're all directed right here. So that's how we're different. We're not looking going down this way, right? When our mud comes out, it goes right here to the top, to the cutting edge,
Got it.
right? And where the cutting is actually happening. So by doing that, we're rejecting the heat from the cutting edge. We're cooling, and we're able to bring the temperature down by half, basically. So everybody
Oh.
else is drilling at about, I don't want to give a number, but 13, maybe 1400 degrees. We're at like 700. So we've cut that temperature in half. So with that, more bit runs, longevity is through the roof. Performance, we're increasing performance 10, 20%. ROP, rate of penetration, which measures, how fast, how well your drill bit's doing and getting down the hole. We're doing better there. So just a bunch of different operational parameters and statistics. We're excelling, and we truly have a superior product.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I understand that. And like, even though, like you said, it's not something that necessarily someone would have thought about, like for your dad and his field, it actually makes sense because he was able to look at it through a different lens.
Yes, I love that you say that, because that's kind of like a lot of these investors and some of our customers are like, how did we miss this? Of course you point it to where,
Yeah.
and our answer is like, look, I think a great invention is not necessarily like some big guy says, hey, you group of 10, 12, ladies and gentlemen, go lock yourself in a room and invent something great or design.
Right.
It's usually a guy that's probably not in the field, right? Potentially. It is someone that is, it's maybe doesn't, it's just a hobby for them. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like their job and they got to do it and have a salary and it's right. And they have to make incremental. No, no, no. He was in, rocket science. So he looked at it and from a different view, right? And he was able to bring his experience into it and say, oh, this is exactly what has to be done, because I've been working on heat rejection, cooling, and by the way, temperatures 3-4 times as hot as down on the cutting surface in rocket engine design. So
Okay.
for him, he was able to say, okay, we need to have some type of spray flow option with more nozzles, and they need to be shooting right at the cutting edge. And so, breakthrough. It's a breakthrough in drill bit design.
Yeah,
It's
so
funny
cool.
too, because sometimes we'll put some content out, LinkedIn, wherever, YouTube, and you still, you still have some haters lying in the grass, that are like, oh, what do you mean it took a rocket scientist to design the best drill bit? Like, oh, well, too bad it wasn't you, I guess, right?
Right.
Because it's like, but that's okay. To me, all that does is motivate me.
Yeah.
Some people, when someone says something and talks down, or they hear something, they're like, oh, they get in a little hole. I'm like, bring it on. The more criticism, the better. And if it's criticism makes sense, we take it
Yeah,
in,
it
and
can
we
be.
make ourselves better,
Hmm.
and it can improve what we're doing. But sometimes if it's hate, that's just motivation to me.
Yeah. Well, and you're a competitive person. You're
Very
you're an
competitive.
athlete, and so like just hearing any of that
Hmm.
feedback, it's like you already want to strive to be more.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like I think it makes sense, like you said. It's like there wasn't any pressure, or expectation for him to invent something.
Right, it was a hobby at first,
Yeah,
that turned into a little golden nugget.
that's so
So
exciting. And so like this has been a relatively quick process for you guys. The growth.
yeah, yeah, it's been about a year and a half, and we've been able to do well with grow the team, form a team, grow the team, get patents out, U.S., international, um, and just put it together. Secure manufacturing contracts with some really, really really experienced and well-known manufacturers in the city of Houston, and we're looking elsewhere. We have a division to our business out in Canada. My uncle, who's very experienced in oil and gas, 30 plus years. He's a big director to another oil and gas company out of Canada, but he's been a lot of help to me as well. He's my dad's little brother, so sometimes if I can't get through to him, he's like the Dr. Borissov whisperer, on our team, and so that's been really helpful, and it makes sense too, right? Like if we're dealing with with an operator or drilling service company out in Canada, for us to manufacture the bit in Houston and get it up there, logistics, transportation,
Hmm.
delivery, that takes more time, more money. Why not just build it in Canada?
Sure.
If you've got the design files and proper, I mean, you know, people that work with steel and do the hot work, putting the cutters in and everything, those are mostly experienced folks that you can find in Texas, Canada, and many places. So.
Yeah. Well, and like the long term of the drill bit, is it to get it on different drilling sites? Or are you looking for a customer base? Is this exclusive or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, right now we've had a number of competitors of ours, really, but big, big companies in this space. We all know who they are: downhole tools, right? Or really any tools. Some of them. Try to either acquire us or do some type of joint venture, and we're looking at that. But we're also like, hey, we have a business, we already have some good investors behind us. Luckily it was one of my students that's a great friend, and was able to um, kind of like step in when we needed, we really needed some backing and some capital, and to really help push us forward. And so we're secure, in investors. Um, they want to see us do well, other than obviously investors putting money in to make money, but um, we're good. So we're kind of just pushing forward and generating revenue and building the team and running the business. So the goal is to grow our valuation, right? Like if we're taking a bunch of investors in at a lower valuation, which we are now, we're almost kind of like shooting ourselves in the foot if there's an exit in the end,
Okay.
right? So the goal is to grow the valuation, and then maybe when we're in the tens and twenties of millions, then now the number's grown, right? So if an investor comes in, they're gonna have to put in a little bit more money at a higher cost per share,
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's exciting. And when you present this bit to your potential customers, like what's the reception like?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's, we're a startup, and there's like we talked about before, there's very slow resistance to change, so a lot of folks are very secure in the business relationships and dealings they have now, and they kind of like, well, what we're using now works for us, and yes, we have some issues here or there, but we're also saying like, look, it's not like this is something so novel, right? That we have. Like we're not just some crazy different looking. If you sat this thing down and you sat anyone else's bit down, right? And you walk 15 yards away, you wouldn't be able to tell what's what.
Okay.
You know what I mean? When you get closer, now you see the difference in the IP and the different nozzle alignment and the hydraulics package, right? But we use steel, we use matrix like everyone else. Like I said, our manufacturers are very solid. We have all the certifications. They've been doing this for years, 30, 40 years in some cases. We use premium cutters like everyone else, right? So the only thing we've done really is we've gone in here and we've put a different hydraulics package and a nozzle alignment on pretty much a standard PDC bit. And that's what kind of puts us over the top because we're kind of matching everyone on everything else. But with this cooling and heat rejection is where we kind of take a little bit of a step up. So,
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that, again, it's like the industry can be slow to that change, but I think the more that you put yourself out there, the more that you can see the quality difference and the difference it's going to make, because I would assume that that bit would probably have a longer lifespan
of
than
course,
traditional bits.
right, longevity. We're that's one of the categories you can check that we're better in. Um, yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, and even you get it from some of the testimony from some of the early drilling, tool pushers or drillers that have run our bits is exactly that. They're like, hey, when this thing came out of the hole, the cutters were shining, whereas compared to another bit, it comes out of the hole and cutters are chipped, cracked, like or completely gone, where you have to go and you have to do a solid refurbishing job to then put it back in the hole. Where with
Okay.
us, most, I would say most drill bit companies are refurbishing their bits after every run, right? And it makes sense. Like they'd rather spend maybe $300 to $500 after every run to refurbish rather than letting it run 3 4 times. Now they got to spend $5,000.
Mm,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
But with us, we can let it run 2 3 4 times and it still be, the cutters could have a great grade still. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. No, exactly. It sounds like I mean, it's obviously a quality product and very beneficial to the industry. It's just a matter of being able to get it out there more and to get some more believers that are going to help you. Also, with that word of mouth is always important, and knowing that you've seen it in action or you've seen somebody else using it. Because I think anybody is just slow to that change when they're not familiar with something.
yeah, so part of what we do is, my father, myself, we help try to educate folks on what it is we have, our story, how we're different, and that way people understand and they're the kind of that anxiety or that risk level goes down a little bit.
Yeah.
But also we're trying to make sure that we are very diverse in our business. One thing is making drill bits, manufacturing, selling, renting them, and that's a product. But we're also developing services as well, right? Our patent attorney is great up in Silicon Valley, which is the belly of the beast for all that stuff. And he was able to get our first patent out in like 8 months, which is like unheard of. So we're doing patents for others. When we mention this, people get interested. As well as we're working a little side project where we're using AI, AI professionals, some engineers, some folks from our team, and basically when the bit an AI database platform that we're building, where when a bit comes back from the field, we use top-notch 3D imaging, grading, and taking a real deep look at what needs to be done to refurbish the bit, and then we're having our experts give their opinion on that,
Okay.
right? And then we're loading that opinion into an AI database platform. And now after 50, 60, 100 of these, right? Now we're teaching that AI. Now it's going to tell us better than our experts can tell us what
Yeah.
needs to be done, right? And that's a great tool because it has plenty of legs, because it's not only about refurbishing and fixing the tool to get it back, but if you have the same bit coming back from West Texas from the same application and you got, the same number blade and the same number cutter having the same type of issue, chip, crack, whatever it is, well, then maybe you got yourself a design problem there. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And
Yeah.
so maybe we need to change something there. So what we're doing is we're developing that product or that service, and we are going to use it for us, help our business, show others how it helped us, and then we're going to bottle it up, cookie cutter, and sell it to
Oh,
everyone
that's
else
awesome.
as a service. And there's others that we're developing. So we want to try to double, triple dip, and make money from products and as well as services.
Hmm. Well, and it's like really being able to integrate like your background and like your dad and what he does and like that kind of knowledge. It's not
Mhm.
someone from inside the industry that's used to seeing it. It's a new set of eyes and a new way of looking at things. And so to have that service for the industry, you're in a very unique position.
Yeah, yeah, we're building that out with another famous company that we all know, and basically to have, because they have the opportunity to get downhole in 10 different applications around the world. And so we're taking the similar team that I just mentioned for the, kind of the refurb design service, and we are kind of building, designing, and running bits in 10 different applications. And that process is being monitored as well. And so that's almost going to be like a SaaS type of situation, because then we can take that in and say, look, this is how we did it. This is how we developed, this drill bit that's outperforming any other drill bit. Here it is, you know, take it in. So, yeah, no, I think, and my dad too is very innovative. He doesn't stop working on, let's say, okay, we solved the problem at the cutting edge and cooling and everything. Well, he's actually now, we have a patent out called volumetric flow. He's working on cooling the inside of the bit body, not just the outside. So with I won't give all the secrets away, but so that's for like geothermal or offshore drilling where there's really different temperatures and things. So
Yeah.
yeah, we don't stop. We keep
No, that's
going.
awesome. Well, and I can see that, like, as an inventor and as an innovator, like, that there's always the potential of improving.
Yeah, and if there's some type of failure or some type of setback or something, some people take it and really it hurts them, or it has them maybe stop or go backwards. I always take it as like I always try to find a positive from anything,
Hmm.
especially if there's a negative. Well, the good Lord sure is in charge, and there's got to be something that positive that has to come from that,
Yeah.
right? Or like, what are you doing? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, figure it
Right.
out and make it
Yeah.
better, and keep pushing forward. So yeah, we don't stop innovating and getting better, and making the drill bit that we already have even better, and also trying to help others as well. So
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like, you guys have definitely a solid product and a solid team, and I mean, there's no end. Like you've got a lot of legs and room to grow, and
product, team, and even, well, also as important, market, right? Drill,
hmm.
baby, drill. The market's going up, right, in the next 5 years. So I think those three things are probably the most key, right? We have a
Yeah,
superior product, we have a winning team, and the market's going up, right? And so that's a good recipe for success.
it really is, and it's like it just kind of goes back to like what you're saying about like even a negative experience. Like there's wisdom in that, and
Oh
you
yeah.
can you can take trials and tribulations, and you build off of that wisdom, and that also creates success. And so since you've experienced that in your life and you have that mindset
In sports, yeah.
in sports, you can already apply that to what you're doing now.
You say, I don't even like to say the word loss. It's like learn, right?
Hmm.
I could be playing a tournament, and actually in a tennis tournament, every single person that plays that tournament loses, except for one person, right? Because at some point everybody lost.
Hmm.
Even if you got to the finals, you got second place, you lost. The only person that has not lost the whole tournament is the person that won the tournament, right?
Right.
So I was pretty good and I won a lot of tournaments, but I also lost a lot more tournaments, right?
Right.
So that coming home from that and being able to right away kind of let it soak in and start figuring out like, well, why did you lose that match? Okay, this and this and that. What troubles did you have during the tournament? Okay, sometimes my coaches thought I was crazy. I would literally get back from like maybe lose a finals match in the morning in Dallas, like on a Monday morning. And so I used to love that because then you get to skip school and then drive home 4 hours, try to figure it out, and not even go home. Just be still in my same clothes, change shirts, and go right back to the tennis court. You know what I mean? After
Wow.
like a
Yeah.
3 hour match, I'd go train for another 3 hours to like get right back into it. So I think it's actually been really cool to find how much, not just tennis, but sports, folks that played like D1 college or just competitive athletes, even music or art, that are in the oil and gas space, the energy sector, that are successful, that are leading teams, leading companies to new heights. Now that I've been in this for about a year and a half, it's really cool to see that.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a podcast that I've my own podcast that we're going to release soon, It's called the Cutting Edge, and that's kind of what it focuses on. Is mostly energy professionals and kind of tie in kind of like maybe what they've done or what they've accomplished with companies or in their career, and that's going to be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely, a really great thing to, be able to highlight people and talk from that perspective, like really give, some of that good advice and life experience to people that would be listening or watching that kind of show, to like see people that have made it and that have been successful in this industry.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's what it's all about. Father of five, so we have a big bunch at the house. I have two boys, three girls. My wonderful wife is like my chief of staff, I always say, because she's,
I'm sure she is.
gosh, she gets so much done with helping me and just, I mean, it's amazing. So, but just going through that in the home life, personal life, and trying to like bring up five kids, it definitely, some of the experiences you have there can translate into the business
Hmm.
space and trying to lead a team. And yeah, no, we're continuing to hire. We're continuing. I feel like almost like a GM, general manager to like a football team or something, or basketball team, where like I have to. By the way, hiring is like one of the toughest things these days to do, right? Because people don't want to work. They want to work from home. They like cut corners. So like
Yeah.
to get the right piece in the right place and make sure that piece is happy. That piece, let's say, person is happy and doing their job, and they're part of a winning team and a good culture.
Hmm.
It's a big challenge.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, I mean, just trying to find that right fit
Hmm.
in like really check all those boxes, because that's a lot,
Yeah, no, it's
and there are a lot of
hasn't
moving
been easy.
parts.
We've had some parts come in and fall off, and but mostly it's been good. So we're building and trying to build off each other too. And like, I'm not, I'm a very humble person. I'm a professional at maybe a couple things, but I'll not at everything else. Right? I would say sports, maybe sales, marketing, and stuff, but other things like drill bit design. I'm a sponge, so I love to learn. I'll ask a
Hmm.
lot of questions, but I make sure I bring in those professionals to help, my father, my uncle, and our team get those kind of things in place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that, where where their strengths are and get people that are going to complement.
Yeah, and I got that too from teaching tennis because, like, I've seen parents. I'm like, I'm probably the most qualified person to teach, or my friend who's a great coach down the street. Like, let us do our job. Stop. And the parents would
Oh.
like take the kid out
Oh.
and start trying to teach him themselves. Because like, yo, I
Okay.
played high school tennis. Like, I'm like, listen, you pay us good money. Let us, And so,
Right. And it's different too, because you have that separation in the relationship.
yeah, even with my kids, again, I'm pretty qualified to teach them in tennis and a lot of sports, but I don't. I make sure I take them to a friend who I
Yeah.
know is a qualified professional, and because I want to just keep that father daughter, father son relationship, and not
Hmm.
get too much into like, because then it just
It
changed. A
changes.
good friend of
Yeah.
mine who's a famous tennis coach said had my son and my daughter was being born, and he's had older kids, and we're just kind of talking sports and coaching and kids and family. And I said, well, what do you think about coaching your kids and everything? He's like, well, he said two things are going to happen. They're either going to grow up hating you or hating the sport.
Mm.
And which one do you want? And I was like, neither. Thank you.
Right.
So I've been trying to kind of play it like that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That was pretty sound advice too.
Right.
Well, speaking of that, something else that we had talked about before is an organization that you're a part of or that
Hmm.
you've done some work with,
Yeah.
Threat Zero.
Yeah. So there's some of my friends who have a great, I would say, not even, well, it's a business, but a mission, program for Threat Zero Solutions. So it's basically helps with threat assessment, early threat detection to help prevent school shootings or any type of active shooter scenarios. Not just in schools, we focus on schools, but that's really a great cause because Doug Hart, who's a founder, and his family, his brother, his son, James and Jake started this. Always wanted to kind of do it, but Doug had a long, brilliant career with the FBI as a special agent and dealing with all of these crazy active shooter scenarios and things, and always said that, hey, I can take what I've done and learned and experienced over my career and try to help. And they've, as the FBI, they've had him in on some of these terrible tragedies that have happened in the last 20 years in schools, and so he brought that knowledge, and then they started Threat Zero Solutions, and man, it's really amazing. It's very non-evasive way, student-centric approach to help focus on, you know, more than 90% of the time it's an internal threat, especially middle school and high school. So how do you stop that, right? It's like, so, and then probably 85% of the time something happens before the terrible tragedy happens, where, you know, these kids are not like trained Navy SEALs on a mission keeping a secret. Like they were act out,
Right.
text, email, put a Instagram post or say
Mm-hmm.
something, scream something. So, you know, a lot of times there, almost all the time, there's a way to detect it, and the best people to detect it is their peers, right? So we say, you know, find it, see it, share with someone, you know, a parent, teacher, or somebody, and then, you know, it works. You know, there's been a number of school shootings and suicide that's already been prevented just this year. So it's something that's very near and dear to my heart because I have 5 school-age children
Yeah.
myself. So.
Yeah, and that's something that, just as we've progressed in our society, that's something that you become more fearful or conscious of.
Hmm.
And because it just seems like it's a repetitive cycle, but obviously a lot of it is preventable. And with the right protocols put in place, a lot of these tragic situations can be avoided in the future.
Yeah, we agree. Like a lot of focus goes into like when it happens, what do you do? So they're talking arming teachers and getting more SROs, which is the officer in the school, and but honestly, and of course, we're all for metal detectors and but a lot of times, you know, if you focus on before, right before it ever happens, on trying to assess it, see it, you know, call kind of see it um, coming, you know, coming, hopefully not coming to fruition, but see it like forming, and then you're able to detect it and stop it before it ever happens.
Hmm.
That's obviously the best way to go about it.
Right.
Because if it is happening, like, what's your best case scenario? Teachers in a shootout with a child? I mean, it's crazy,
I
right?
mean, it's
So,
still not like the circumstances are still dire regardless of,
oh, it's too late. It's too
and
late.
really like to be prepared. I mean, it's good to be prepared, but you're right. It's like taking that next step back,
Mm.
and with someone that was, I mean, in the FBI and that's had
27 years.
27 years of experience and knows, how to prevent it, like really before it ever even turns into an active threat.
Right.
And focusing, because I did look at their website, and it's focusing a lot on mental health and understanding. It's like, okay, if, like, a peer can reach out to a teacher, to someone, or even the organization, to give a little bit of an insight, like this person is clearly struggling. Not only are you going to eliminate a tragedy, you're going to be able to see what's going on with this individual, and do they really just need help.
Yeah, and then, you know, similarly to like Cool Edge Bits, you know, we're trying to get. I love this country, right? We immigrated here. We left another, you know, country of Russia, but I love this country. We came here for, you know, freedom, for be able to, you know, have your own business, and just kind of the whole, I don't know, kind of capitalism, you know. So we're trying to get as Cool Edge Bits, but as well as, you know, Threat Zero in front of the folks that are in the White House, you know, from
Hmm.
President Trump to even, you know, like the DOE Secretary Chris Wright, who was recently brought in, and share with those folks what we're doing as far as on the energy side, how
Hmm.
we're helping to create products that help operators excel, and actually more environmental responsibility as well.
Hmm.
Because guess what? We're saving 7-10 days out on rigs. So less work in there, right? Less
Hmm.
black smoke in the air, less CO2 emissions, right? As well as, you know, hearing us out on Threat Zero. Man, that would be great to get in front of those folks, and bring Doug and just present and say, hey, look, this is something we have. This is something that works.
Yeah.
A mandate of this being in every school in the country could help potentially prevent school shootings as
Yeah.
well. So.
And that's really where the conversation needs to be, because like we've seen it where there's the cycle, where it's like, the tragedy happens, the fallout, the outrage, and then being able to look back on it and say, like, well, this is how we could have prevented it. And there's all kinds of conversation in retrospect in
Mm-hmm.
how it could have been handled differently. But to have somebody that is already,
Doing
well,
that.
like
Yeah.
so qualified in doing that,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't hear about all of these situations that were avoided. you hear about
About the ones that
you hear about the
right.
tragedy. And so I think if we elevate the conversation to this is how we're preventing that from happening, and like
Mm-hmm.
you said, getting it in front of the right people and getting the awareness out, I think more people are going to be on board when they realize that it is effective. It's just there's not anything associated with it to have that elevated awareness, because
Yeah,
it's more about like not having something happen, and so there's not a lot of
getting it in front of our like past the state legislature and hopefully federal in front of our you Senator Ted Cruz of our great state of Texas, and then like we said, the folks in the White House would be amazing,
yeah.
So, and it like you said, it works. It's already helped save lives, and the number of instances where it has worked. I mean, this would have been national news,
Hmm.
another terrible tragedy, and that was avoided. So,
But it would have been great to see that national news that it was avoided.
right. Yeah, we like to share sometimes, but we try to be respectful as well.
Of course, and then
But
you do have to be mindful of that, and so it's not necessarily trying to exploit a situation that didn't occur, but
of
it's like
course,
just being able to say like this is now what we're able to do to prevent something from happening. So it would be difficult to to have that
but
obviously on the news, but I'm
but
sure
even
there'd be a way to.
even in house too, imagine for the child that helped prevent this, suicide from happening, or imagine the child that helped maybe say the right thing to the right person who helped a school shooting from happening.
Hmm.
Like what that does to that child. That's confidence. That's
Right.
knowing that you're doing things the right way. You're sharing, with the proper people, and you're kind of like, you're being a nice, proper human, and looking out for the
Yeah,
humans around you.
absolutely. To have that recognition of being a leader and having that courage to step forward and not just living in fear, like you're a victim or potential victim
Right.
and you have no voice. And so really being able to provide a platform where these kids have a voice, or that they have a system that they could reach out to. And
For
so
sure. For
I
sure.
think, I mean, it's a fantastic organization, and I have no doubt that it'll continue to grow. And I was glad to be able to talk about it a little bit with you today
Yeah.
and learn
Yeah.
about it.
For sure. Yeah, no, it is growing and it will continue to grow. Just like our business, Cool Edge Bits. And, I think a good, healthy mix of, customers, investors, and just the proof that the product or service is something that works, that helps save time, money, cost savings, efficiency in the drilling space, or in the other one, I think is a great formula,
Yeah,
you know.
I think so too. I've really enjoyed hearing about all of it. I think you've got a lot of great things going on, and it's exciting to see what you're doing in the industry and the people that they're working with and organizations. And I really appreciate your time and having you come on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. For those interested, please visit us at cooledgebits.com. Um, and we've got plenty of information there that could get you started, and you can reach out to us for more. We really try to take a really kind of like a client centric approach to dealing with our potential clients, customers, and existing, to where we're like, hey, where are you at? What are you doing? What problems are you having? What current drill bits are you using? Here's how we're going to help you solve your problem.
Yeah.
So that's been a really special approach that we are taking, and are going to continue to take.
Yeah, I
So.
love that. A solution-based approach to all of your clients and customers.
Right, because if you like, a lot of times if you make someone, and we even allow them to, we don't have to have them or need them to, but we allow them to, if they wish, to help us with bit design. A lot of them don't have any interest and said, "Give me the thing, I'll run the thing, please make it better." But some truly are very interested in our kind of new technology and the change that we've brought, and how they can bring their years and years of expertise that
Oh, I
maybe
love
we
that.
don't, not all of us have. A lot of us on our team do, and because if you make someone kind of feel like they're part of something, they're gonna want it to succeed. They're gonna
Yeah.
want to like it better or be a part of it and want it to, cheer it on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Great collaboration and opportunity there to just keep getting better and better.
yes, ma'am.
Well, thanks again, Vasili. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you, Breezy.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for watching Power of the Permian. We'll see you next time.